in God's Word. Today, March 2nd, the reading is Numbers 30 and 31 in Mark chapter 9. Let's go to Mark chapter 9, and there's a few different events happening here. Again, Mark's right on top of it. He's just giving us event after event. And so the first thing we want to look at is the transfiguration. That's starting in verse 2. Jesus takes Peter, James, and John, and it says he was transfigured before them. His clothes became radiant, intensely white, as no one on earth could bleach them. And there appeared to them Elijah with Moses, and they were talking with Jesus. Peter said to Jesus, "Rabbi, it's good that we are here. Let us make 3 tents, one for you and one for Moses and one for Elijah." For he did not know what to say, for they were terrified, and a cloud overshadowed them. And a voice came out of the cloud, "This is my beloved Son. Listen to him." And suddenly, looking around, they no longer saw anyone with them but Jesus only. They get back down the mountain, and there's a crowd. And Jesus asked the question, verse 16, "What are you arguing about with them?" And someone from the crowd answered them, "Teacher, I brought my son to you, for he has a spirit that makes him mute, and whenever it seizes him, it throws him down. He foams and grinds his teeth and becomes rigid. So I asked your disciples to cast it out, and they were not able." And he answered them, "O faithless generation, how long am I to be with you? How long am I to bear with you? Bring him to me." And they brought the boy to him. When the spirit saw him, immediately it convulsed the boy, and he fell on the ground and rolled about, foaming at the mouth. And Jesus asked his father, "How long has this been happening to him?" And he said, "From childhood. It's often cast him into fire and into water to destroy him. But if you can do anything, have compassion on us and help us." And Jesus said, "If you can, all things are possible for one who believes." The man said, "If you can do anything, help." And Jesus, maybe with a little smile, "If you can, all things are possible." Immediately, the father of the child cried out and said, "I believe, help my unbelief." What a great picture. I believe, but there's a big part of me that has lived with this. So help my unbelief. There is real honesty in his heart and in his life. So Jesus rebuked the unclean spirit, saying, "You mute and deaf spirit, I command you, come out of him and never enter him again." Crying and convulsing him terribly, it came out, and the boy was like a corpse. Most said he was dead. But Jesus took him by the hand and lifted him up, and he rose. When he entered the house, the disciples asked him privately, "Why could we not cast it out?" And he said to them, "This kind cannot be driven out by anything but prayer," in some versions, and fasting. And he's going to tell them about going to the cross, dying and rising again. They didn't really understand it, tells us in verse 32. And they're afraid to ask him. So instead, what are they going to talk about? Verse 33, on the way to Capernaum. And when he was in the house, he asked them, "What were you discussing on the way?" But they kept silent, for on the way they had argued with one another about who was the greatest. And he sat down and called the 12, and he said to them, "If anyone would be first, he must be last of all and a servant of all." And he took a child and put him in the midst of them, and taking him in his arms, he said to them, "Whoever receives one such child in my name receives me, and whoever receives me receives not me, but him who sent me." You want to be first, be last, be the servant of all. Humble yourself like a child. This faith walk is not about high and mighty, great things that you know and can tell, but it's coming with the attitude of a child. Teach me, Lord. Lead me. Use me. Till next time, keep growing, little by little.